Okay, very good afternoon. It's an honor and pleasure to be a part of ITCX 2025. Uh, we are here as a team. I am joined by the director, Professor Satyanarayana of IIT Tirupati, who is seated there, and my colleagues, Dr. Kalidas and Dr. Prasanna. We would like to, in this presentation, share with you two things. What we can offer as an academic institution to the temple operations, management, knowledge systems, as well as pilgrim experience, and a couple of use cases, that is what we have done for some of the temples around Tirupati. Just to give you a short idea, a brief idea about IIT Tirupati, it was established about 10 years ago. It's located, I would say, in the center of the triangle. You have Tirupati, you have Sri Kalahasti, and then you have Venkatagiri. So it is located there, very close to Yerpedu, and it's a 543 acre campus, sprawling campus, surrounded on one side by hills, and you have a lot of greenery now. And we have about 9 departments, academic departments, and about 1600 students. And the institute is currently led by our director, Professor Satyanarayana. As you know, IITs are renowned for research programs and education programs. And we have several programs running in our campus. We have several centers of excellence as well. And I'll not so this is just a timeline of the history of IIT Tirupati. It was started in 2015, and our permanent campus, we moved into 2022, which was a fully operational campus. And 2023, we had completed the phase A of construction, and you have it completely operational. As I said, we have 9 departments, 5 engineering, and 3 sciences plus a humanities department. We have a new department coming up on material sciences and engineering, and about 1700 students on campus, including undergraduate and postgraduate programs, right? So some of the thrust areas that IIT has been carrying out the research and training are shown here. So we carry out research in food technology and precision agriculture, smart infrastructure in cyber physical systems, materials and manufacturing, and energy storage. And then, of course, we have quantum computing, navigation technology, and so on. We believe that these thrust areas have a very strong relation with the science and technology that is required for the construction and maintenance of temples, not only in the country but across the globe, and that's why we are here. So I will be talking about what we can offer for a temple administration. What you see on the slide are the broad areas in which we can potentially interface with the temple administration. As everybody knows, AI and data science has taken the world by storm. And we believe that both these have excellent potential in running temples, in maintaining temples. So you will see when my colleague Dr. Kalidas presents, what are some of the things that AI can do for temples. One of the things that we can do is reading the inscriptions on the temples. You can have an app which reads the inscriptions on the temples. Or you could use the drone technology to manage the crowds. We have seen in the Mahakumbh Mela what are the things that we have been running into, whether it's at the railway station or at the site of the Mahakumbh, and so on. So the AI technology can be used in many ways in administering the temples, including, of course, booking the tickets and so on. And you can also use data analytics for financial fraud detection. See, large temples have a lot of finances involved. How do you systematize and how do you run an algorithm that will scan through and that will skim through the data and tell you whether the money has been, the money, the finances that are coming in are being used for the right purpose and so on. And on the other hand, we are looking at the temples themselves, where we can, we have expertise and excellence at IIT Tirupati for temple construction materials, the health assessment of the structures, the temples itself. We have, India is, is a country to ancient temples, so we have a lot of challenges with the existing structures. They have become very old and so on. So how do you assess? And our one of my colleagues, Dr. Prasanna, will talk about the work that he has been doing at the Sri Kalahasti temple and the work that he has done for Simhachalam as well. And we also have the know-how and the expertise to come up with special concretes and 3D printing for temples whenever you're thinking of expanding temples or constructing new temples. One of the main operations that happens in temples is distribution of prasadam or the distribution of bhog and the preparation of it, storing it and so on. So IIT Tirupati excels in food technology, which includes food processing, packaging and sensing and including storage. We have a very nice incubation center. Do visit us on the campus, which will not only show you automated ways of preparing food, but also novel ways of storing food so that you can store it for longer times, and you can also sense any spoilage of food. And then a lot of material gets generated in the temples. There is a lot of usage by the devotees and so on. So one needs sustainable technology. Sustainability is the key now across all domains. So we can offer solutions in sustainable wastewater thermal management, recycling and eco-friendly solutions. And we have a very strong group that will help you with energy management. A lot of energy gets consumed during the operation of the day, including operating the bulbs and the kitchens. So very recently, one of our colleagues came up with this porous radiant burners, which they are called porous radiant burners, which not only reduce the CO and NOx emissions, but also increase the fuel efficiency. So these are currently operational at Sri Kalahasti, where they have reported 40% energy fuel savings. So that is again a testimony to the kind of research that happens at IIT Tirupati, and that's very relevant to the temples. So in addition to that, we are in a very good position to conduct short-term workshops or certification programs and training programs for temple administrators, policy makers, engineers and so on in related areas. So please feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to offer any kind of services through the temples. So with this, I will close my part of the presentation. I'll invite my colleague Dr. Kalidas to come on stage and share some of the applications of how AI is being used or can be potentially used. Over to you, Dr. Kalidas. Thanks.
So, I am going to present a few software paradigms we are exploring, a few algorithms we are creating in our lab, and how they are applicable for temple scenario. For example, what you are seeing on the screen are different types of text documents. So, if you take any temple scenario, if you take the household material anybody has, they have handwritten texts of their ancestors. Some of their ancestors would have been some poets or literary experts. How do you preserve such kind of data? It is actually a wealth of knowledge that needs to be preserved. So let us look at this slide for a few examples here. On the bottom side, I am showing the published work of an author a few hundred years back. So we saw those manuscripts in our house. Similar to that, there will be several people who will be having such kind of data sources. So how do we preserve them so that it is related to the cultural preservation what we have. The algorithms what we work on are general purpose in nature. For example, if you see on the top side, they are not cultural heritage documents. They are actually, on the left side you see some prescriptions, on the middle you see the signboards, on the right side you see the stickers on ambulance and so on. So the algorithms are general purpose in nature. So how do we position that developed technology for use within our cultural setting is what is possible here. So I will show you some more examples. On the bottom right side, you are seeing an ancient handwritten palm leaf. Palm leaf, it was the mode of handwriting, so it was the mode on which people used to write the content. So what is possible is, on the same palm leaf, different authors will have different interpretations. For example, if there is one phrase here, one expert will have one opinion on the same content. Another expert will have different content, different opinion on the same content. So is it possible to capture the expert opinion on these preserved and photographed palm leaves? So there are two things. One is called digitization, other one is called digitalization. So government has preserved the ancient content by photographing the content. And there is a lot of data available there. But the problem is, it is not searchable. For example, I want to search for ancient manuscripts for specific sequence of events, let us say. Now, someone has to make that interface. Otherwise, it is just some photographs. You cannot search a photograph. So there are some techniques such as optical character recognition, but those are not readily applicable for this type of data. So in Indian style, we have something called cursive handwriting. We have samyukta aksharas, that means one letter collides with the other letter. So how do you recognize characters there? And it is also not possible that people would write all the characters correctly. Over time, these manuscripts will go for degradation. What happens is, some termites would have eaten some parts of the manuscript. Some part of the script would have been broken, or there may be folding on the script that characters cannot be visibly seen. So how do you recognize characters is a very difficult problem. So in our lab, what we are doing is, we are coming up with some algorithms which can approximately and with more accuracy detect what is written there. Can it draw regions and say that this is what is written there? For example, what I am showing here is the purpose of the interface what we are developing. On the left side, you see a text search option. On my audio based search option. So that is the interface what users will see. Okay, I want to know what are all the literature that are talking about, what are the places that Lord Rama visited, let us say. In South India, in Tirupati, did Lord Rama come to some place? I want to know that, let us say. So how do we get that information? It is not easy to directly get the information. We can't even make a phone call to the expert and ask, oh, did you know about this place? So what is possible is, if we capture such kind of data in the system along with evidence. Evidence means it should not be without evidence, no? It's not somebody's opinion. So how do we capture the evidence? How do we search for the evidence are all possible with this type of systems. So these systems are general purpose. So the algorithms what we develop, those are all tools. The tools can be used for different kind of purposes. So they may be used for prescriptions, they may be used for other types of English data, but the same tools are applicable for cultural preservation content as well. So this figure is explaining about that. Some more examples of palm leaves I have put here. So the top two documents are coming from Kanchi University. They have about more than 1 lakh palm leaves on different content. Ramayanam, multiple copies of Ramayanam, same Ramayanam written by different authors, Mahabharatam, different types of Kalidas's play like Raghuvamsham, Kumarasambhavam, Megha Sandesham, all of these kind of plays written by different authors where handwriting is different, the content is different, the bundle may be clean in some cases, bundle may be damaged in some cases. So they have a lot of data. Now, how to make this data searchable? That is a very tough problem. So on the top you are seeing an example of the palm leaf document. In this image you are seeing from a zoom level, right? So when you zoom in, it is a clear image, but the characters are very hard to recognize. If you give it to any OCR engine, it will not recognize anything. So advanced algorithms are required for that purpose. Someone or other has to develop an algorithm that we have taken up as an assignment for us to preserve the Indian culture, and that's what we are working on. So above two are palm leaves from Kanchi University. Below is another palm leaf, one more example of a palm leaf from another university called Bannari Amman Institute of Technology. For example, if you take Chennai, they have, I mean to say Tamil Nadu area, they have a lot of content written in Grantha script and also ancient Tamil. So that is also wealth of knowledge. How do we preserve that? So these are the types of documents from very ancient sources. Apart from that, there may be content which is out of print content. For example, on the right side you are seeing that is Anala Talpam. So this is from one organization. So that is Manasu Foundation. So they are working on this type of data. Professor Raidu, he is having a lot of books of this type. So he is doing a great service. So we have taken a few books from him which are out of print. That means they are not reprinted now. How do we preserve that kind of data? So those are not very ancient, but they are old enough, maybe 100 years back. But how do we reposition that prior written work to the existing content? The algorithms will be same, but they are applied for different purposes. So this is one line of research what we are doing in our lab, IIT Tirupati, where it has applications for the knowledge bases of temple. So what is possible is, in every temple, it is possible that they preserve the manuscripts. So temple is also a source of knowledge, where people can come and say, this is the bundle I have in our house, can you preserve it? So when such kind of requests come to the temple, they can tie up with academic institutions like IIT Tirupati to apply technology, present day technology to that, and let those knowledge live forever. So if we don't preserve it, that knowledge will be lost. If we just keep it in the closed bundle, it will be damaged over time. So this is overall picture of it, how the software system looks like. So this software system is called, we gave a name to that software system. It is sponsored by Science Heritage Research Initiative. We called it Shri Akshara Annotation System. So this system provides for crowd-based annotation. So what is crowd-based annotation? If we see, there are a lot of scholars available. They have free time. They are actually doing their own business. For example, some people are working in Xerox shops, some people are working as some other self-businesses, where finding regular job is difficult for them. They are sustaining on their own self-employment. They have free time. They have knowledge. Now their knowledge is not translating to usable item, usable technological source in their free time. So is there a way we can bridge the gap between the experts who have expertise and who are not able to translate that expertise to the knowledge which is presently knowledge systems what we have? This type of interfaces help. These are called crowd-based systems. So what happens in these systems is, for example, a document will be loaded where an expert who knows something about the subject will be able to specify what is it about in his free time. So that annotation, that is called annotation, that annotation stays forever. So the system will reuse that annotation. When someone else is searching for similar content, the system can retrieve the annotation provided by some expert in his or her free time. So that kind of a system is we are envisioning and working towards such kind of a system here. So So the other one is what AI can do. For example, we were trying to see in the contemporary world, just about a month back, there is a revolution in how can there be thinking machines? The answer is yes. The machines are able to think and reason. So what we did was, we sat with one administrator and tried to see what are the problems that temples typically face and what are the solutions AI can offer. So the consolidation of that discussion I have put in the form of a slide here. So for example, some of the things is centralized monitoring. So how do we monitor a temple? The word monitor is very big. Whether we are monitoring the finances, whether we are monitoring the physical assets in the temple, or whether we are monitoring the security in the temple. In all these three places, AI can be used. For example, computer vision can be used for intrusion detection. Can we keep some assets watched all the time? So all these costs can be reduced by making use of present day technologies. So in this slide, what I have put in is how AI can be used for about 7 different types of scenarios. One is called footfall. Footfall means how many pilgrims come to a temple will determine the success story of the temple. So the different ways that AI system can help in increasing the footfall is connecting with the different stakeholders. For example, the transportation people, digital advertisement people, different types of marketing can they have, and this is also related to self-sustenance. Can the temple have its own source of income? So what are the different ways that AI system can suggest? The suggestions can come from the AI system itself by feeding in your present state. So if you see all these 7 points, we gave as input to the AI system, what are the suggestions that you have, asked as if it is a human. It came up with so many suggestions, okay? So if you see here, strategic partnerships is one possibility. So this was verified and vetted by the administrator, the person who is into administration. So let's look at some more aspects of it. So in all of these 7 places, AI systems can play a role. For example, auditing. So typically in the temples, the data is maintained in the form of handwritten content. There is no computerization there. So is there a possibility, is there a way in which we can feed in that handwritten records to the system and be able to audit the content? Okay? So this is my last slide. I will close with this. So one more system what we are working on is, can there be a visual navigation system for that? For example, what you are seeing is, on the bottom left side, an image of the temple you are seeing it. This is a AI generated image basically. So when somebody visits an archaeological site with their smartphone, can they retrieve spot specific information? For example, there may be a sculpture at some place with some historical importance. There is something called Kshetra Puranam. Kshetra Puranam is a generic one. It is for the entire temple it is given. But there can be specific, spot-specific information that people will be interested in knowing. So can we create such kind of an interface where temple can provide cues to the user saying, put a hanger at different places saying, these are the places where you can get more information about that specific spot in the temple. So these are some things related to that, what we are working on, what is also possible to offer to the temple's research. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Namaskar. So continuing the presentation from Dr. Kalidas. Namaskar. Continuing the presentation from Dr. Kalidas, our colleague at IIT Tirupati. So I am Dr. Prasanna. So I work in the area of construction materials at IIT Tirupati. So we have done a few projects at IIT Tirupati where the ancient knowledge was used to address some of the prevailing problems which the temples are now facing. For instance, most of the South Indian temples, in fact, some of the North Indian temples as well, the construction materials which were predominantly used, yes, they are having rich Indian culture, no doubt, ancient knowledge. Are they just spots of praying, not necessarily. They have vast knowledge which has to be really put into record and saved for future. They were using green construction practices. I will describe some of them, where the ancient waterproofing technique followed was brick, jelly, lime mortar or concrete mixed with kadukai and jaggery extract. So, in construction terminology, in material terminology, we call that as organic water or herbal water. So, that will improve the water tightness of the system. So, they were using this technology as a roof technique, which will use to impede, which will use to reduce the water ingress into the roof. But of late, we observed some of the problems. So they mostly used lime mortars for their construction. So cement was introduced only in 19th century. Before that, everything was entirely lime mortar based construction. So lime has this nature of, once it absorbs a little bit of water, it has the tendency to expand or contract as the case may be. Audible? Yeah. So most of these construction, if you observe, pause and think, they were using mostly bricks and stones and lime mortar before the advent of cement. All this happened way back in 5th century AD. Some of the ancient temples date back to 5th century. So I'll get back to that question, sir, little later. So this roofing technique, I would like to draw your attention to the roof technique that was used, which we should concentrate as part of our interaction today. So Srikalahasti temple, which is around 25 kilometers far from Tirupati, so very famous temple of Lord Shiva along with Jnana Prasunambika. So it was originally dated back to 5th century AD. Later Cholas and Pandyas used to, they made the main deity, main construction of the temple in 11th century AD and all. But predominantly it was a stone structure with entirely made with lime mortar. So in the month of November and December way back in 2021 around, there were reportedly, due to incessant rains, continuous rains, lot of leakages were observed from the roof. So we at IIT Tirupati were approached by the temple authority endowments department. So we were fortunate enough to get engaged with them and serve the temple for its purpose. So of course there was adequate roof on the top, adequate slope for the roof on the top to dissipate whatever excess water was coming due to rains, was easily getting drained off. Then what is the situation? What was the problem all about? So we, along with a group of experts, we visited IIT Tirupati, and from IIT Tirupati we visited the temple roof, and we figured out that yes, to do further investigation, we really need to do a depth profiling and try to obtain, first of all, the construction record. What do they contain previously? What do they had done whenever there were some repairs? What was the ancient technique that was followed? So we really need to decode what was done previously. So visual inspection was done first of all. So we observed that there was a plain cement concrete on the top of the temple, which was laid out with chicken wire mesh they call, which will typically you will observe on the top of our buildings whenever you want waterproofing. The normal contractor comes and they will do this chicken wire mesh with a small cement coating on the top. So that was a ultra modern technology that was being used on an ancient temple. That's what the prima facie information was. So later, after doing the coring, we have obtained the coring at different locations, and we observed that the temple roof consisted of bricks, almost 5 to 6 layers of bricks depending on the location to provide adequate slope, which was entirely jointed using lime mortar. Of course, over a period of several hundred years, maybe some deterioration might have happened in the lime mortar. Some pores could be very much inadvertent. We cannot get away with that. But they were definitely using on the top of that this waterproofing technique which I had described previously. But reportedly in 1990s, though there were no proper records of this one with the temple authorities or the endowment department, unfortunately, but reportedly they laid almost 2-inch thick plain cement concrete on the top of brick jelly lime concrete. So that was the actual issue. We understand it's such a huge area, almost 4-acre temple roof without any construction joints. without any construction joints, completely exposed to sunlight, rainwater, everything over several hundreds of years. So there is differential thermal behavior between the materials which were used in the past and which the current modern technology is really prescribing. So we identified that's the main reason. And yes, the top wire mesh, which is supposed to be UV resistant, which is supposed to take care of the stresses, was not really serving its purpose because it was tightly bonded by the plain cement concrete. It is not letting it to expand. But yes, the brick jelly lime concrete which deteriorated over a year will have certain loose pockets also. So this effect we call as sponge effect. Like, okay, on the top of it you had already cracks. Once the rainwater falls on the top, it get entrapped within these cracks. Before you really reach the drainage, it is getting entrapped. And if it rains today, maybe after 3 to 4 days, you will start seeing the water dripping down from all the pores those were present in the brick jelly lime concrete layer. So we suggested certain roof intervention. Okay, the first step is to remove the plain cement concrete without any hesitation because it is definitely not compatible with the previously laid brick jelly lime concrete. So that had to be removed using manual means because most of these temples constructed along with stone constructions, they were stable based on P delta effect. So which we call the load must be really present on the top of the stone columns, otherwise because you don't have foundation below. You don't have strong foundation below the stone columns. So they are really stable using certain configuration and supported by lot of load on the top. So that you have a beam connected using column say. It is not extending into the earth foundation. What's happening basically, it has to be supported using P delta. It is stable by adding that load on the top. So there is no point in removing the load, removing these layers, but that plain cement concrete had to be definitely removed using manual means. Otherwise, if you use power shackles or very hard force energy to remove this, it will alter the load, it will alter the bricks also, and the P delta effect can be minimized, which may lead to complete unfortunate accidents, which we really do not want. So using manual intervention, we have to remove. Let me tell you, there were a lot of, I would say, there was a donor who was funding this project at Sri Kalahasti, repair to. They were doing since last 2.5 months. They were so meticulous in removing the 2-inch thick layer over 4 acres on the entire temple roof. And they laid, you can see in the central image, the image at the center, they removed the plain cement concrete, the damaged layer on the top, and followed by brick jelly lime concrete admixed with the Kadukkai jaggery extract, our ancient technique that takes care of the water tightness that is required on the temple, which is compatible with the brick jelly lime concrete that was present beneath as 5 layers inside. So currently on the top of all this final layer, we have also recommended for tile protection because tile was also made from basic clay. So they are definitely compatible to some extent and complete waterproofing can be ensured. The same technique, in fact, if you observe some of the other South Indian temples, was very much followed. So we recommended similar concepts which are definitely successful and will have more longevity to deal with and compatibility with the old method of construction or conventional green construction practice. So the other interventions which were done by IIT Tirupati as far as the temple visits are concerned. So we also had a similar problem reported at Simhachalam temple in Vishakhapatnam, another very ancient temple, Lakshmi Narasimha temple in Simhachalam. So they were also following the same technique. The donor had an MOU with endowments department to follow the same waterproofing technique to be followed at all all temples in Andhra Pradesh as much as possible. The same donor and endowments department are in agreement now. So they met the minister, etc., to follow the same technique everywhere. And another problem which we could also help with was the deterioration of Lakshmi Narasimhaswamy temple in Antarvedi. Antarvedi is a famous place where Godavari river is merging into Bay of Bengal. It's in the West Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh. So at that place there is a very ancient temple, Lakshmi Narasimhaswamy temple, the place Antarvedi. So they were near the Garbhagruha, they have observed salt crystallization. So whether the temple and its surroundings or other constructions which are predominantly sandstone, are they really stable or not? So we could serve them with our consultancy services. So we at IIT Tirupati have geared up in this temple services as much as possible with ancient knowledge preserved to the extent possible. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. We have certain expertise listed here for your very quick reference, which could be of interest to some of you. Please take a note out of it so that anytime, any problem, particularly from temple's perspective, please give us an opportunity to be part of that work. Thank you.